Hi everybody, this is David from Matt-Trakker.com coming at you. Today we're going to talk about the M.A.S.K Eagle comics. So last time we talked about the regular UK run, which ran for 80 issues, 81 technically because there's a 0 issue, and was the main book of the UK run. It's one that I feel like people talk a little bit about, but not a lot of people are really familiar with the content inside. We're going to go into the Eagle comics, which I think are even more obscure. So the background on these Eagle comics is that in the last issue of M.A.S.K in issue 80, they basically wrapped up all their storylines and concluded. But there was a teaser that M.A.S.K stories weren't over yet. They were going to start joining forces with Eagle into a combined run of comics with Eagle. Those of you not from the UK probably won't be familiar with Eagle, which is a long-running comic in the UK that generally has themes that are kind of in line with M.A.S.K. Science fiction stories. It also contains a lot of World War II era stories, so very action-oriented comic. I'll put some of the covers up on screen, but that basically that. So, the comics ran basically every 2 weeks from October 29th, 1988, all the way up to March 25th, 1989. So, it basically went longer than what M.A.S.K was running in the United States. And these, as far as I know, were some of the last English-released M.A.S.K materials ever made. And in fact, I think the last issue of the series was the last English-language comic ever released, as far as I'm aware. I might have checked some of the annuals, but I'm pretty sure that's the date. So, the comics basically still followed the same format as the UK ones, where they would have multiple ongoing M.A.S.K stories to every issue. And you would get a separate part of each story going forward, and they'd have ones starting and ending variously. They're very much if you like the UK stuff, this is more of the same. They're all original stories, but they all have similar artwork, similar stories. But they're just tied in with Eagle, so they're basically sitting alongside comics such as Dan Dare, Charlie's War, Johnny Red, Keyboard Warriors, I think is another one in there. A lot of these the other comics, most U.S. people probably have no familiarity with. Before I found these, I never really heard much about them. Dan Dare has a little bit of marquee value. And I feel like Charlie's War, from reading these, I actually became a little bit of a fan of. So they're good comics, but they're not ones I feel like most American audiences would know or be familiar with or really have much interest in. Some of them are pretty good and, they're kind of cool, but for M.A.S.K fans, you're really here for the M.A.S.K, so that's what we're going to talk about today. M.A.S.K. So the M.A.S.K stories in these books, they didn't do a new origin story. They just had a first story that kind of just introduced the readers of Eagle to basically what M.A.S.K is about, who the characters are, and basically to get people up to speed. The storylines in these are actually really pretty good. It feels like they learned a lot of their lessons. A few of the stories, like Robot on the Run, are actually quite exceptional, and I'm going to definitely cover some of these later on. They're very good stories. So I definitely recommend picking these up if you're a huge fan of the UK writing and you just can't get enough of it. This is more of the same. So good stuff across the board here. I'm going to have the covers up here. The one thing you're going to have to remember with some of these is that all the issues will have the M.A.S.K logo on them, but not all the covers necessarily will be M.A.S.K related. Like this one, nothing to do with any of the M.A.S.K content in them. And there are some that are very much M.A.S.K related. So my foray into these was I was searching for the regular UK comic series online. I got a few, and I saw some of these for sale, and I didn't know what they were. And it looks like they were in English, so I basically bought one on eBay. And, lo and behold, a few months later, I think it was a few months later because it came from the UK. It seemed like it took forever. I get it and open it and look at it, and it's like, oh, okay. So I started piecing together what kind of happened with this, and Scott Crawford's been very helpful with this. We really don't know if it was M.A.S.K trying to buoy up Eagle sales or the other way around. Eagle sales were bad, M.A.S.K was helping them, or M.A.S.K or Eagle sales. Either one of them had bad sales. I just didn't say that right. It's okay. So one of them either had bad sales and was helping prop the other one up. I personally think M.A.S.K was probably the one more struggling with sales. I think it probably had good sales, but it wasn't doing so well. And keep in mind, the toy line was winding down at this point. So even in the UK markets, I don't think it was going very strong. And if it was going strong, M.A.S.K would have survived past the issues it went. I believe the series went for 22 issues, so it was definitely a significant run. I mean, it still dwarfed basically what we got in the US. So when I got the issues home, I basically looked and read them, and, I was trying to figure out, where these fit in. So these are at the end of the M.A.S.K timeline. They do have the racing series characters in them. However, the racing aspect is generally heavily downplayed in this series. We'll see Razorback or Bulldog or Guana Pierre, but they feel like they're more along the lines of they're just newer M.A.S.K characters, newer M.A.S.K vehicles. We'll see Goliath, and Matt will occasionally use Shroud, but for the most part, Miles Mayhem's back in Switchblade, Matt-Trakker's flying Thunderhawk, and these are just kind of more auxiliary M.A.S.K vehicles in there. I mean, you'll see things like, in one instance, you'll see Firecracker sitting side by side with Wildcat. Rhino fighting alongside Bulldog. So it just felt like they didn't really play into the racing aspect much, but the racing stuff does appear. They never got to the split seconds line, so there's no split seconds in here. If you like the racing vehicles and you don't really like the racing concept, this is probably a really good place to be with it. It didn't feel like they overshadowed anything else. And they didn't try and recreate the wheel with it. They just basically said, okay, these are new M.A.S.K characters, and they just happen to have some racing themes with them, and it is what it is. So it's a really cool book. So part of the value, though, you're going to lose with these, and this is something that might hurt M.A.S.K interest in them, is one, the covers, if you want to display them, aren't all M.A.S.K related. I mean, you have some really, truly bizarre ones that have nothing to do with M.A.S.K. We got the M.A.S.K logo on there, but I guarantee you this fellow does not appear in one of the M.A.S.K stories. And that might hurt the value of these for some people, just because that they're sharing the space. Every issue does have M.A.S.K related content in them, and M.A.S.K related stories going on in them, but a number of pages are dedicated to other non-M.A.S.K related stories, like Dan Dare, Charlie's War, Johnny Red, VR Warriors, or Keyboard Warriors. So it's something, or it's Computer Warriors. I'm sorry, I keep saying keyboard. I'm not really super familiar with the franchise there. And it's just something you're going to have to kind of remember with these, that there's only a handful of pages that are going to be solely M.A.S.K material. So I really like the stories in these, and usually I typically discuss a storyline from the UK comics, and the first M.A.S.K story they put in here is just kind of getting people up to speed, and it's really nothing spectacular. And I really love the story Robot on the Run. I think it's one of the best M.A.S.K stories put down. I mean, it's actually a T-Bob centric story, but I think it's excellent. And it actually puts a lot of things at stake, where Venom actually starts winning for a little bit, and we kind of see M.A.S.K on the ropes. But the story I really want to discuss with everybody is one called Cockpit Island. And I know a lot of people want to know about the origins of M.A.S.K. And, I've talked extensively on this channel about it. When I've done the mini comics, we talked about, the origin with Andy, and with the UK comics, we talked about the origin with Joe. And the one thing I've never seen that people really want to talk about is, how did it all end? There were a couple other storylines running at the same time as Cockpit Island, but there's a number of points in the story where they kind of say they feel like this is going to be the final confrontation between M.A.S.K and Venom. So personally, I take this one as being the final confrontation of M.A.S.K and Venom. And when I kind of go through the plot of it, it does seem like this kind of felt like was meant to be a final story. And it's really good. So I'm going to kind of describe the story to you, put a few pictures from it. So it's one, if you guys can track it down, it goes across a number of issues towards the end of the run. So it's really cool. So Cockpit Island starts out with M.A.S.K heading towards a race. I know it's going to sound like a racing story, but bear with me for just a second. So they basically chartered an ocean-going freighter and are trying to kind of stay under Venom's radar. Well, that doesn't happen. They do not stay under Venom's radar. Venom attacks Switchblade, Manta, and Piranha attacked the freighter and during a hurricane or a tropical storm, I believe. I don't know if they say it's a hurricane. So the ship, Manta gets shot down, and the ship grounds, and everybody ends up on this mysterious island. M.A.S.K does their best to get off the ship, get their vehicles unloaded, and most of the vehicles came out of it okay. And they actually have Vanessa Warfield for a while taken prisoner. So Miles Mayhem also lands on the island, as well as Cyrax, and everybody starts kind of looking around this island and starts finding some really unusual things on the island, like an abandoned airfield and a complete mock-up of a town, and they're trying to figure out what's going on here, all the while they're trying to fight off each other. Well, partway through the story, Miles Mayhem actually realizes all the navigational equipment's taken out. They can't really find out where they are, but he's able to send a message to the rest of the Venom team. And he tells them to basically go over to an Air Force base, hijack an Air Force transport, and bring over some of the heavy Venom vehicles like Outlaw, Jackhammer, Iguana. Bring them to the island, just home it on the signal, just get over here and help out. And the rest of the story seems to be a slug-out battle between M.A.S.K and Venom once the heavier Venom vehicles arrive. Them fighting through the island, vehicles getting taken out one by one. And it's really kind of a brutal story compared to like a lot of what we got in the cartoon. And they all are slowly trying to figure out what's going on with this island. Why is it deserted? What's going on with it? And towards the end of the story, M.A.S.K figures it out that this is going to be a nuclear test target island. And the Air Force is going to basically blow it off the map. And the test is coming very shortly. So it then becomes a race of how do we get off the island? And, do they convince Venom to go? So the story basically ends with M.A.S.K basically appealing to Miles Mayhem that they need to have a truce and they need to abandon their vehicles. The Air Force transport Miles Mayhem had Venom steal that brought the Venom vehicles to the island becomes their arc, and they all pile aboard the ship and luckily all of our heroes and villains survive, but everything else is destroyed. And that's the last kind of page of M.A.S.K we ever got. And the last scene of the comic actually shows Miles Mayhem and Matt-Trakker flying the transport together, lamenting that the truce will have to go on because it'll take them a long time to rebuild their forces. It's really a storyline I really like, because it feels like it wrapped up the M.A.S.K and Venom conflict, but it didn't wrap it up so tightly that they couldn't do stories afterwards. And personally, it's like one of my very favorite M.A.S.K stories. Just because it wraps it up so nicely. All the vehicles are destroyed. And if had they wanted to do a split seconds line, it opens the door for that, because they need new vehicles. Everything was destroyed. It kind of allows them to basically bring out this new technology. So M.A.S.K and Venom ended on a truce. And unfortunately, to this day, the classic M.A.S.K run, I know we had the IDW run later, you can still say that truce lasted for a long time. And we're still there because we haven't gotten really any official classic M.A.S.K stories anywhere in the world. It's really a storyline I really like. And like I said, Robot on the Run is an exceptional one in here. There's a few other really good ones that are there. One other thing is Gloria still does not appear in the books. Vanessa Warfield is still here, obviously, because she did receive a toy. So if you do like Gloria still, same with the regular UK run, she's not here. Everybody else, as far as I know, appears. We can see all the racing characters. Otherwise, the cost of these books, I bought them for a few dollars a piece a number of years ago, and they may have gone up since then. It's just really hard to find the sales records of these. You'll probably have an easier time if you're in the UK finding them than you are in the US. And if you can find like lots of them together, I would definitely recommend them. It's really a nice series, and it does cap off the UK materials quite well. And I would definitely recommend, if you can find them, pick them up. But again, it's the same downfall with the original UK run, is that there are multiple ongoing stories. So if you get one issue, you're not going to get a whole story of anything. It's basically worth more together than the sum of its parts. So, like I said, we've gone from the beginning of M.A.S.K to the end of M.A.S.K. And, it ended in a truce with everything being destroyed. And I have some pictures up here of it, obviously, so you guys kind of get at least an idea of what it was like. And, and I mean, I remember reading this storyline, as an adult. I mean, I found these comics as an adult, and, it kind of felt like a little bit of closure to me on the M.A.S.K series. That, you lived with it for so long, and you thought you'd read all the M.A.S.K stories before, and these were something new and different, and, you actually found, something that nobody ever talks about, like the last M.A.S.K story. How did it kind of all end? And again, it's not specifically stated, but they do put this appear to be the final battle of M.A.S.K, and it just caps off the series so well, and it works so well, so to me it is. So if you want to disagree with me, feel free. I'm not going to argue with you. I really like these books, and this is unfortunate. This luckily is not the end of the UK comics, because we do have annuals and special issues we're going to go over, which is we're going to start going into next time. It's really a cool series. It's really something neat. It's really something that you really should look into if you're really a big fan of the M.A.S.K media. If you love the cartoon and you love these characters like I do, it's definitely worth at least trying to check it out. And if you do see an issue that's cheap and inexpensive, definitely grab it up. And, but like I said, with these, you are splitting the space between other comics with M.A.S.K, so that is something you need to keep in mind when you are tracking the Eagle rundown. It's definitely a fun ride. It's definitely something neat. It's definitely worth something looking into. But it might not be for you, and if it's not, that's cool too. I mean, if you don't think hey, I don't really want these kind of end-of-line M.A.S.K ones, and, they're not all M.A.S.K, they don't have M.A.S.K all on the cover, then that's cool too. If you don't plan on reading them, you want to display them, they might not be the best ones for that purpose, but all in all, the artwork's good. They're still black and white UK comics. It's very much what you had. If you like the original 80-issue run of the other one, these are more of the same in a lot of ways. So we're going to talk a little bit more about Eagle Comics or M.A.S.K Comics next time when we start doing specials and annuals. And that should be, I'm not sure if I'm going to do that in 1 or 2 videos. But we still have plenty of M.A.S.K media to cover, because after that, we are probably going to start working towards the IDW run. So, okay, this is David from the Boulder Hill Archive. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel here. Check out all the other content. Bill and Caro are doing some great things. I know Lisa and Darcy are doing great things. So just be sure to check everybody out on the channel. Give them a chance. Everybody, thanks for watching. I hope to talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.